Okay, I'm gonna start the policy committee meeting of the San Benito CISD Board of Trustees, Monday, June the 4th, 2018, at 6:50. Item number 1, call to order. Number 2, presentation by Escamilla and Ponak on lobbying services.
Hello, good evening. My name is Rico Garcia. Nice to meet y'all. I represent Escamilla Ponic. I'm an attorney and a lobbyist with Escamilla Ponic. I'm here with my colleague, Marty De Leon. We have a presentation for y'all that we'll be putting on. So we have an office here in the Valley that we just opened last year. I was one of the ones that opened it. I'm from the Rio Grande Valley. I went to Sheridan High School, went to UT, went to law school at UH. I'll mention my background as they're pulling it up. I went to work for the state. I've had 3 total sessions in the Texas State Legislature, 2 different outings at the United States Congress. Been around, worked with a variety of folks. And following this last legislative session, I came over to work with Escamilla Ponic, open up our Valley office. And we're with a larger firm that is headquartered in San Antonio. We have an office in Austin, we have an office in Houston, Dallas, a variety of other places, Fort Worth as well. But we span across the state. We do a lot of work with a lot of ISDs, something around 17 total ISDs we're general counsel for. We also bond counsel for many, much more ISDs, and we provide lobbying services for a significant amount. So without further ado, we will begin with the legislative one. So yeah, this is more or less giving some kind of a overview of the legislative services that we provide. We really do focus on the education-based ones. Like I said, we represent ISDs. We represent corporations as well, associations, and municipal governments, such as counties and cities. But we do focus largely, about 90% of our lobbying services, on school districts. So we are very well versed on this. We've been doing this for a very long time. My colleague Marty De Leon, like I mentioned, has been doing this far longer, nearly about as long as I've been alive. So there's much more experience than my face can provide. You can go to the next slide, please. So quick overview on the legislative session in Texas. In Texas, as y'all know, we have one session every 2 years, right? And that session lasts for about 5 months, every 24 months more or less. So we try to cram the second largest state in the United States, all the bills into 5 months. In that time, around 6,000 bills, as you can see, are filed. It's a lot of bills, and it's not much time. So as you can see, about 1,000, which more roughly 24 to 17%, depending on which session it is, will actually pass into law. The reason that stat is important is because if there's something important to you, your district, or your community, statistically speaking, your bill will die, right? So for bills to pass, you need people that help to get these bills passed. That's what we do. We get bills passed. You can go to the next slide. I'll let my colleague take over after this, but in short, we have a variety of clients, like I mentioned, who have a lot of interest, they have a lot of issues, projects, things that they want passed, and we will tailor our legislative strategies and our lobbying services specifically to school districts, like I mentioned, to provide things. Essentially, I say sometimes, like, we can move mountains, literally. Sometimes you see there's roads that go along mountains. Those are lobbyists often, right? Or there are funding projects that are brought, new things that are brought. Often those are lobbyists, right? And like I said, most bills die, so you had someone that had put forth a very unique, tailored, and effective legislative strategy. I'll let my colleague take over on very specific projects, though.
Good evening, Mr. Board President, board members. Thank you for having us. By way of introduction, my name is Marty De Leon. I'm a former school teacher. I taught at Edgewood ISD before Rico was born. And I want to talk a little bit about how we can be helpful to San Benito, and the presentation by staff is going to be very helpful in the next few slides. The one school district that I've been working with, several school districts, were not very happy with their junior college offerings. And many of you, as you know, you're married to the local junior college. Every school district has that local junior college. Well, the University of Texas has its own dual credit program, and it is called on-ramps. What is very important about on-ramps is that the new accountability system, A through F, is going to be final in August. We wrote a provision that says if high school students complete an on-ramps course, the school district will get 1 point or get a point for that student finishing that course. It also says, there's another indicator that says if your students are taking AP courses, many of your students are taking AP courses, they have to get a 3 or better on the assessment. That bar has been raised very high. But knowing that, we were able to work through the legislative process and work on a college curriculum that is affordable for school districts. In fact, it's free because we wrote the budget rider that would allow school districts like yours to have your students take these courses that are offered through UT and Texas Tech at no cost, and you get the benefit of the accountability rating. So these are just a sample of all the courses that are available in high school. The goal of on-ramps is to expose our students to the rigor of college at the high school level. Many of our students show up at the University of Texas and other Tier 1 institutions, and they're not ready. This is an opportunity to bring a world-class education to our high schools and give our students that rigor. Can we go to the next slide? Very quickly, these courses that are offered by the on-ramps program, for example, like for our students that are juniors taking English 3, you can take the on-ramps version, and they call it research and writing. But the student, should they complete this course, will get the high school credit and earn UT credit. Or actually, this credit is transferable to any institution. So they want your students to complete their prereqs while in high school. Before you go, when you're at the University of Texas, before you get into your major, if you're majoring in economics, you have to complete these prereqs. The goal of the University of Texas in this program is to have our students complete their prereqs in high school. This is going to be a huge college savings for our students. So for example, sticking with English 3 or research and writing, if Rico was enrolled or is going to enroll at UT in the fall, that course is roughly about $1,500. But through the budget rider that we wrote, it's free. So imagine if all your students were taking multiple courses through the on-ramps program. There's a huge savings for the student and the family in terms of college tuition. Going forward, professional development is very important for our teachers, I believe. Many of our teachers were born before the internet, like myself. And so many of our kids today, including mine, I have a 10th grader and a 7th grader, they are technology savvy. They expect their teachers to be technology savvy. The University of Texas has an educator prep program called UTeach. They provide blended learning professional development. And they also have this UT High School that will help our teachers incorporate technology into the classroom. If your teachers do not know how to use the iPhone or Samsung or any of these personal devices, and they don't know how to incorporate it into the lesson, many of our students are not gonna get the benefit of the lesson. My kids are, they don't really listen as well unless there's technology involved in the lesson plan. And we have some professional development that we wrote in the budget that is free for our school districts. Professional development is not free, and I think you can ask your staff. If you find out how much you spend on professional development every year, you're going to realize it's a huge cost. So we wrote a budget rider that would reimburse school districts for professional development that's focused on blended learning. So, as Rico said at the top, we are a firm that tries to customize solutions for school districts. One district that engaged us was Hutto ISD. They really wanted more funding for their pre-K program. And so we crafted this bill just for Hutto ISD. We just wrote this one bill for Hutto ISD, which says if they have any juniors that graduate early, those students typically means that the district's going to lose the funding because they graduate and you lose the ADA that comes with that student. Well, we wrote a bill that says that student, the value of that student actually gets reinvested back into the pre-K program. So the district does not have to do anything different. They had about 30 students every year graduate early, and that meant roughly they were losing about $150,000 every year. Because of the bill that we wrote, that $150,000 is reinvested back into the pre-K program. And as we've learned today, that the district has not raised taxes in 8 years. You have a fund balance that's being drained. We're trying to come up with solutions to help school districts in light of the fact that we're not really, I'm not that hopeful that we're going to see a school finance bill that raises your revenue. State revenue is declining every year, and the cost of doing business is going up. So we have to be creative and be dynamic. And so Hutto ISD is in this pilot for another few years, but I think they are seeing the benefits of having students move through the process and graduate at the rate that they want to graduate, but they shouldn't be penalized. And so this is a cool little bill that we worked on. Going back to the staff's presentation on finance. Another bill that we worked on, this is really one of the most creative bills that we worked on. Partnerships with community colleges, with nonprofits, is not a new revolutionary idea. Every school district has these partnerships. What is dynamic about this bill is you will get extra funding per student if you do an 1882 agreement. So for example, let's go to the next slide if we could. Just for fun, I drew up this illustration. You have this Gateway to Education, graduation, a campus. It's an alternative campus. Imagine if you had engaged a nonprofit. Let's just call it ABC for the sake of brevity. Under an 1882 agreement, you would engage this ABC nonprofit to run this campus. Under the bill's provisions, you will get roughly about $1,000 more per student than you would for a regular student. So this is an opportunity to generate additional revenue per student. You, as you know, the more students you recruit to come to San Benito, the more revenue you get. Well, if that doesn't happen, if you're not attracting students, the next best thing, in my opinion, is how about we make the students that you have worth more? The students you have, you don't have to do anything different. They're the same students. But under 1882, if you do this partnership, you will receive an additional $1,000 roughly. It just depends on the school finance formula. And if you offer CTE classes, you'll get more funding for those students. And the legislature also set aside funding for this campus under NIFA, which stands for the New Instructional Facilities Allotment. And if you need to do renovations or upgrade the facility, there's funding for that campus. This is again, a dynamic way of trying to generate additional dollars for the school district, but it's still a San Benito campus at the end of the day. So anyway, we just wanted to kind of give you a flavor of what we do and how thoughtful you need to be going into session. Because think of it like this. When Christmas comes around, do you ever say to your children, you don't need to ask Santa for anything this year? If I said that to my kids, they would throw me out of the house. I look at session like it's Christmas. And we ask our clients, what do you want? Because our version of Christmas doesn't come, as Rico said, it doesn't come every year. It comes every other 2 years. So it's really important that we maximize the opportunities that the legislature gives us. And this is what we do. This is how we try to be helpful to our clients. I'll stop there if there are any questions.
So typically, what give us like a timeline in terms of if we were to go into contract with you all, like what would a timeline look like as far as things that we are coming down the pike, as far as like the STEM Academy, the early college, high school, et cetera, so like a lot of the new things that we're doing that can complement your services at the Texas Legislature. So what would that timeline look like?
Ideally, Mr. Board President, the sooner you engage us, the sooner we can start planting that seed with lawmakers and letting them know this is what San Benito's interested in. What do you think? So much of what we do during this break is talking to legislators and asking them, checking their temperature. What if we did something with this district and we did this partnership? This is the benefit of the break that we have, we call it the interim, is trying to figure out the pros and cons of what will pass and what will not pass. The sooner we get, the closer we get to session, the busier these individuals get. These lawmakers are being bombarded from requests on all kinds of issues, from transportation to housing. So the sooner we engage, the sooner we can plant the San Benito flag, if you will, in their minds. And but again, it just depends on the wish list too. Every item is different. If it's an appropriations, it's going to require a little bit more work. If it's just policy, again, it depends on the policy. We've had some clients that asked for, well, their requests were very, very ambitious, and we like to be upfront and tell them the legislature has never passed that or won't consider it. If we go back to the, can we go back a few slides? I want to show you something on the HUDO slide that says HUDO on it. Right there. If you look at the bottom of the slide, so again, this HUDO bill is about the pre-K program. If you have students that graduate early, you can reinvest that money in the pre-K program. If you notice, other groups have tried to pass this bill. Senate Bill 421 died in 2015, and then Senate Bill 2270. It is very difficult to pass this type of bill without having some help. 2 other groups have tried, and it's not easy. So it's a matter of getting in front of the lawmakers and establishing that relationship.
Exactly, that's exactly what I was gonna, bring up is just starting, open up that dialogue and networking with the legislature and to see where, where we fit in the mold or the scheme of things and advocating for our area. It's something that, has never been done here, I don't think. But, I think it's a great idea. And, I think having you guys on board would be a great asset to our team. And, basically helping our administration, with, how we can get some resources to better serve our kids. I think it's a great opportunity. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Can I ask you, what schools have you applied this format?
Senate Bill 1882?
Yes.
Under Senate Bill 1882, there were 6 school districts that applied.
Okay,
Do you want to know the names?
please.
Sure. It was Austin, Ector County, Waco, let's see, Austin, San Antonio, Waco, Ector County, Victoria, and Hearn. Very different districts, and many of them, San Antonio, for example, Austin had, they had turnaround schools. They had schools that were IR 4 years in a row, and they had to consider something lest they lose their autonomy, and the commissioner comes in. So only 6 districts. It's revolutionary. 1882 is not easy for some boards. Imagine if I told you, and let's just go back to this. So the Gateway to Graduation campus, you're turning the autonomy, I want to be clear, the autonomy of that campus to this ABC nonprofit. But with lawyers, we negotiate the MOU, the outcomes, the performance objectives. Again, only 6 districts decided to do it, but without a school finance bill, this is what we do. We try to maximize the opportunities that are there and try to be thoughtful about it.
That's it. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Is this an item, agenda? No, okay. Okay, item number 3, review discussion of DEC local. Dr. Phillips?
Yes, ma'am. We just had a question about that last one. Did we make that an agenda item?
No, sir.
No?
It's not an
Does-
agenda item.
Okay.
Does it require us to do an agenda item? Because I know it wasn't a discussion or review, it was just a presentation.
No,
Because we don't have an actual contract yet.
correct. Okay, thank you. Looking at DEC local, you guys have that there in front of you. There's some changes that we would like for you to discuss and consider based on some research that we've done of other districts and our current practice and getting some feedback from employees and dealing with situations in the 120 days that I've been here. We've had some conversations with some different people about how some of our policy restricts and some of our policy is not clearly defined. So we wanted to come back and give you all the opportunity to review that and discuss it and consider some wording changes on some different items. First here on DEC local, where the changes begin, or for consideration on page 4. When you talk about the duration of leave, there you can see there in the red where it talks about the discretionary personal leave may not be taken for more than 3 consecutive days with a maximum of 5 discretionary personal days in a semester and 10 within a school year, just so that there are some limits there. Because as it reads right now, there's no real limits there. And so principals are kind of giving us some feedback on, you know, can I deny this or do I have to approve it? And so we wanted to try to put something in writing. Then if you look there on where it says local leave, we have outlined there or striked out, the professional employee shall earn 3 paid local leave days per school year in accordance with administrative regulations. All other employees shall earn 1 paid local leave day per school year. We felt like most of our absences occur with our auxiliary staff. 65% of our absences are with those staff members. Yet those staff members don't receive the number of days as the professionals do. So then they enter into a docked status a lot faster than professionals do because they are receiving fewer days provided to them from the district. So we wanted to bring for consideration that all full-time employees who work 20 hours or more per week shall be provided 3 days of local leave per school year in accordance with the administrative regulations, along with their 5 personal that they receive from the state.
Okay.
Okay, and if we keep going on down through their sick leave pool, under the sick leave pool, you see there an employee who has exhausted all paid leave and suffers from a catastrophic illness or injury may request the establishment of sick leave pool to which district employees may donate local leave That's a change in wording there because as it stands right now, you can donate your state or your local. Well, in some situations, you have a professional employee that has, let's just say, 30 state days. Well, if they can donate their days at no limit, then we end up allowing someone to take off several more days because of that donation than what would be appropriate given the number of days that they were given or could have saved for themselves. Does that make sense? So basically what we just really want to do is consider putting a limit on the number of days that can be donated and where those days can be donated from, state versus local. Because the state gives 5 days every year, whereas locally, as it stands right now, you either get 3 or 1. We just felt like there needed to be some boundaries there because then you allow people to miss several more days without the boundaries. And then a little bit further down there, the pool shall cease to exist when the employee no longer needs leave for the purpose requested or uses the maximum 60 days allowed under a pool. As it states right now, we don't have a maximum amount that could be donated. So we'd like to put a maximum amount there so that we have some boundaries for people as they're requesting assistance from the sick leave pool.
Dr. Phillips,
Yes.
on the limitation and the use of the days, assuming that individual A receives 30 or 6 days, but only use 3, are the other 3 null and void, or does the employee A keep the 3 as part of their recurring sick leave?
Great question. So the way we would establish that in policy, your policy says that the superintendent or designee can determine the guidelines for the sick leave pool. And what we have done and what's currently in practice, not we, that was already in practice, is that those days that were not used are returned to the donors.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay. And if we keep going down through here, down to page 7. Bullet number 4 there, it says an employee who separates from service due to job abandonment, not fulfilling contractual obligations, temporary employment, and/or termination. Currently, we have due to inappropriate conduct or violations of board policies shall not be eligible for reimbursement of local leave. We felt like if we could take that wording out that says due to inappropriate conduct or violations, then it gives us more flexibility, more determination of when a person could be reimbursed or not. So, for example, if we have someone that just quits, then they would be entitled to this if the wording stayed the same because they're not leaving due to inappropriate conduct or violations. So then that would hold us responsible for paying them for that time. So just to consider that.
Okay. Thank you.
You,
Agenda item? Yes. Item number 4, review discussion of DH local.
yes, ma'am. So DH local is the policy regarding employee standards of conduct, and we wanted to bring this one for consideration and review. Just one particular area on page 5 of 6, where it's talking about campaigning and what employees can and cannot do during a campaign season. So there's some language here where it's that second paragraph, distribution of campaign literature or active promotion of political candidates shall not be permitted on school property at any time. We felt like if we could take that statement out, then we are being more clear about what we mean about campaigning on campuses and during the school day. As well as that next paragraph, active promotion of political candidates shall be interpreted to mean the presence of campaign signs, literature, paraphernalia for periods of more than 30 minutes per day. Well, we felt like saying 30 minutes per day allowed people the opportunity to campaign on campuses or during the school day. Well, and that's a fine line there that we're walking if we are not real clear and specific that we have to be careful not to do that on campus during the school day. So it's something to consider there as well.
Okay.
What's the clarification on, I know that you didn't highlight it there, but the practice now are magnetic signs on sides of vehicles.
Mhm.
So how does this policy impact that? Is that considered as a bumper sticker? Or, because it's right here, 2x3. Yeah. Mounted? Is that considered mounted or a sticker? It's
Yes. Mhm.
considered mounted?
Mhm.
Okay. Thank you, just for clarification, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Agenda item? Yes? Okay, item number 5, review discussion of CDA local.
Yes, ma'am, and this one is a lot more simple, clearer to understand than the others. On page 2, this is the policy that refers to our revenues and investments. And so on page 2, the second paragraph under the subsection of liquidity and maturity, the maximum allowable stated maturity on any other individual investment owned by the district shall not exceed 2 years from the time of purchase. Currently, it reads 1 year. And I'll let Ms. Rendon speak to the desire to have that flexibility there for financial reasons.
Thank you, Dr. Phillips. In this case, we had a presentation at another committee meeting. Because of the interest rates that are rising, we would like some flexibility of going out if possible, if warranted, up to 2 years for investment. It's not that we have to all of them go to 2 years, it just gives us flexibility that if we get a good fixed rate, that we could go out and invest more than 1 year. So it could be up to 2 years.
Agenda item? Yes, thank you. Item number 6, any
Thank you.
committee concerns? Item number 7, adjournment at 7:24.